The conversation around Medicare supplements and Medicare Advantage might be changing in a big way, and we're going to be giving you the inside scoop first. Thank you for checking out NJ Life and Health's YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe. But we're just going to dive into this fascinating topic that has changed in a big way the past couple months. So the old conversation around Medicare was always Medicare Supplement versus Medicare Advantage. There are hundreds of videos across YouTube gaining millions of views between all of them going over this topic because in many ways this is the fundamental decision you make when you go onto Medicare. You can take just original Medicare, wouldn't recommend it. Do I take a Medicare supplement or do I enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan? So let's look at an example of what this looks like, at least traditionally. We're going to show you guys a side-by-side comparison. This is very New Jersey specific, so just know this could be very different depending on the state you're in. So in general, whether you take a Medicare supplement or a Medicare Advantage plan, most people pay $185 a month. Could be less if you're on some state assistance, could be more if you're a high earner, but $185 is the baseline for most people. Then if you were to take a Plan G, in most cases in New Jersey, at least when you first turn 65, let's say you're a 65-year-old woman, it was probably in the ballpark of about $140 a month. Might be a little bit more if you're a man, but that's the first cost. So you're given $185 in Part B payments to the government. You're then paying a private company for a Plan G. Your drug plan could vary heavily depending on what your specific prescriptions were. But if you're on a handful of generic medications, your drug plan's probably somewhere in the ballpark of $0 to $10 a month. If you're on a couple brand name medications, it could be a lot more. But again, this is the baseline. And then if you want dental and vision, you're probably looking at another $40, $50, or $60 a month for dental and vision. Now, this is a relatively high monthly cost, but the nice part is you now have relatively low out-of-pocket costs if something very bad happens. So your hospital, Medicare A, and Part B costs are capped at just that $257 deductible, then everything else is covered. And then your Part D cost has that $2,000 out-of-pocket max that got implemented just a year or two ago. You're going to have a relatively high monthly cost, but you could have relatively low out-of-pocket costs for hospital and medical. And of course, you have that $2,000 drug ceiling if you do suddenly get prescribed a couple of very expensive medications. Now, on the other side, you do have Medicare Advantage plans, which have that $185 taken out for Part B. I feel like a lot of brokers don't always disclose that, which is frustrating when they're comparing apples to apples. But most Medicare Advantage plans with prescription drug coverage, they're $0 premiums. They could be $10 premiums. They could be $30 premiums. The point being the monthly cost is much, much less compared to a Plan G, especially if you're going with a $0 option. And the other good part is there are drug costs baked into the plan, so you're not spending $5 to $80 a month for your drug monthly premium. You're also getting some basic dental and vision coverage, so you don't really need that $60 a month for the extra dental and vision plan. And you're also going to get other nice perks probably. We've seen over-the-counter cards. We've seen some minor transportation benefits. There are some really great benefits that come with these Medicare Advantage plans, but just know that even though you have a relatively low monthly cost, you could have very high out-of-pocket costs if something were to happen that is, very catastrophic. Most of the Medicare Advantage plans in New Jersey have a $7,500 to $14,000 out-of-pocket max. That's not a deductible. That's the, worst case scenario. You totally max out the policy. Now, how do you get to a position where you max out a policy like this? It's often things like chemotherapy, radiation, maybe something heart disease related. These are where most of your out-of-pocket costs are going to come from. So this is a huge generalization. This is very New Jersey specific, Pennsylvania specific. Our backyard, it could vary state to state, but in general, you generally pay higher per month with the Medicare supplement option, but probably have a lower ceiling when it comes to out-of-pocket expenses. With Medicare Advantage, you probably have a lower monthly cost, but you probably have a higher ceiling in terms of, total exposure to a catastrophic medical bill. Again, this is insurance, so we can't always say with absolute certainty this is going to be, but this is a general trend, and this is generally how we tell people the system works, and this is how you're going to see a lot of people on YouTube talk about this process as well. To dive in a little bit more about what the biggest risks with the Medicare Advantage plan are, we have a graphic here. So one of the first things you're going to know is that hospital stays do cost a few $100s a day. So it varies heavily depending on the plan, but we usually see it's about $200, $250, or $350 a day for the first 4 to 6 days you're in a hospital. It could be a little bit more, but this is what happens when you go into a hospital. You're admitted in an inpatient setting. Again, that out-of-pocket max could be anywhere from $7,500 to $14,000 here in New Jersey, and you're really going to hit that because you're paying 20% chemotherapy, could be 20% on a major heart surgery, something like that. Unfortunately, I have had people come into my office who are currently dealing with that issue. They have come in, they're usually not my client, but they say, I was in this Medicare Advantage plan. I got diagnosed with cancer. I had one radiology session and boom, $10,000 bill hit. And it's very tough because at that point, there isn't too much we can do. If they need more radiology and they need more chemotherapy in the upcoming year, you're also going to need to pay the $10,000 again, most likely. So it creates this cycle that can be bad. Again, this is like the worst case scenario, but we have seen it enough where we want to tell you about it. So how do we protect against these big out-of-pocket costs with Medicare Advantage plans? Well, there are two great options. For the hospital stuff, we can talk about a hospital indemnity plan. What these plans do is give you a daily amount when you are in a hospital to help pay those relatively high copays that come with most Medicare Advantage plans. And some policies will also give you an extra lump sum on top of all of that. We also have things like cancer policies, which are pretty low monthly costs, could be $10, $20, $30, $40, $50, something along those lines. And you get a lump sum if you're diagnosed with cancer. You don't have to put it into a specific doctor. You don't really have any strings attached with it depending on the policy. It acts a lot like a life insurance policy, but instead of you passing away, you get diagnosed with cancer, you submit some paperwork, and they say, boom, here's $10,000, $20,000, whatever it might be. Now, the level at which you're going to protect yourself and your specific costs are going to vary heavily depending on your age, your location, your health. But if you are, let's say, a 65-year-old healthy male here in New Jersey and you want a hospital indemnity plan and a cancer plan, let's say you bundle them together and spend about $50 a month. This is a basic quote I did with one of the companies we work with, and I said, what happens if I put $50 into a hospital indemnity plan and a cancer policy? Well, if you go to the hospital, once you're admitted, you're going to get a flat $1,000, which is great. You're also going to get $250 a day for the first 5 days you're in a hospital. So if your copay for a hospital is $250, you're covered and you get a bonus $1,000. If your copay for the hospital is $350, you're going to not have the full amount day to day, but that extra $1,000 is going to help you fill the gap. So that's about half of that $50 and what that's going towards. The other half of the $50 goes to a cancer policy that will give you a flat lump sum $10,000 if you get diagnosed with cancer. So if you max out your policy, you could very quickly be stuck with that $10,000 bill. Here comes the cavalry, your cancer policy, and boom, you have the $10,000 to pay it. You shouldn't have to worry about any major bills that point on because you paid your biggest bill. So this is the comparison, and this is where it becomes a little more relevant for someone who's older. Let's say you're a 75-year-old woman here in New Jersey. Well, the Part B payment is $185 in either option. Your Plan G might now be $180 to $240 or even more, which is getting crazy. Again, your Part D cost probably $5 to $80 a month, something along those lines. Your dental and vision is $60, and your out-of-pocket maxes are, again, relatively low. But that monthly cost keeps creeping up, and it's really straining people on a fixed income. The option a lot of people we think are going to gravitate towards this annual enrollment because those monthly costs are getting so high is to get the Medicare Advantage plan. You pay your Part B. You have a $0 plan, a $30 plan, something along those lines. You get your vision and dental baked in. And to help with the potentially very high out-of-pocket costs, you're going to spend about $50 for hospital indemnity and cancer coverage. And you should be able to help yourself with some of the more catastrophic bills you may face as somebody in a Medicare Advantage plan. I do think as time goes on, more and more people are going to choose this option, the Medicare Advantage plan plus the extra protection, simply to help lower their monthly costs. In 2026, we're expecting Part B to go from $185 to $206. That's a $20 increase. We've seen a lot of Medicare supplements in-house. Some of the companies we work with have 20% increases with their premiums, their Plan Gs, their Plan Ns. We don't really know what's going to happen with Medicare Part D, but we have seen a lot of news from other big YouTubers and inside sources that, potentially Part D costs are also going to go up. If all of a sudden your Medicare costs with the supplement go up 60, 80, 100, $120 a month, that can really strain somebody who's not getting that same monthly adjustment in their Social Security and COLA. So it's really going to strain some people. And we find a lot of people are going to choose this Medicare option, not so much because they want to, they might like their Medicare supplement, but because they feel the need to on a monthly basis. And a lot of people who are in Medicare supplements, maybe they've been with them for 5 or 10 years, they generally like that system. They might have some, issues with Medicare Advantage, or they've heard some things. There's no right or wrong answer. It's really what's best for you. But we can now confidently go to people and say, even if this isn't your first choice, there are things you can do to help protect yourself from some of the more catastrophic costs associated with these plans. Now, remember, these plans aren't always guaranteed. You usually have to go through some sort of underwriting. That means you're going to want to do it sooner than later because this isn't always a guarantee. So what do you think about this, guys? Do you want to hold on to your Medicare supplement? Do you have a Medicare Advantage plan and want hospital indemnity and cancer coverage? Did you even know this was a possibility? There's so many things to go over, so please let us know in the comments. Like and subscribe. Share this with a friend who you think might want this. And if you want to work with brokers who really care about you, please work with us here at NJ Life and Health. We are a local family-owned and operated business right here in New Jersey, but we work in about 29 other states across the country. We've helped 5,000 people with their Medicare just like you, and of course we want to help you as well. We'll go through and see what your current situation is. We'll tell you what your options are in a very holistic and informative manner. There's no pushy sales tactics. We just want you to be comfortable, and we're going to work with you for life. So you have 3 customer service reps you can call all year long. You get assigned a broker that you're going to work with for as long as possible. You're always going to have a resource you can call when things come up and issues arise. A group of people here that care about you and want to help you and make sure that you can have the best possible Medicare experience you can. Obviously, everyone has different situations, so we're not sure what your specific situation is, but we would love to know it and see if we can help you. So don't hesitate. Call 848-226-6897 today or visit our website, www.njlifeandhealth.com. And just so you know, if you call us and it's not a fit, we are not going to spam you. That is something we always tell people. We know that when you call these numbers, they just relentlessly call you over and over again. If we are not a good fit, we will leave you alone. I can promise that. So again, please reach out to us today. I've been Ken, your Medicare guy, and hope to see you guys very soon.